My name is Jerry Gill, and today is March 2, 2009. I'm visiting with Jim Cobb in his office here in Oklahoma City as part of the O-State Storage Project of the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. Jim, I appreciate you taking time from your work day to visit with us here.
My pleasure.
Jim, why don't we kind of maybe go back and start with your early career? Could you share some information about your early life, where you grew up, a little bit about your family?
Well, Jerry, I grew up in Norman, and I guess when I was in high school, I was taking FFA, and we visited the OSU campus quite often, the interscholastic meets, and I just kind of fell in love with the OSU campus. And after I got out of the service in 1955, well, I came directly to OSU and enrolled and began my career to become a civil engineer.
Let me back up a little. So after you graduated from Norman High School then, and then went into the military?
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about your experience there?
Well, I was in the United States Marine Corps, and I got to spend a year in Korea. And while I was there, I participated in 2 battles, and I'm proud of the fact that I got 2 battle stars from the Korean. Some people called it a conflict, but I still call it a war.
If it's real bullets, it's a war, isn't it? Well, Jim, what battles did you participate in?
Well, these were, I guess they really didn't have any name. They give you a battle star for a certain period of time that you were in Korea, and I was in that period of time when they had 2 battles, and they don't have a particular name.
Well, trying to recall, outside your office, or you have a flagpole with a plaque. It's kind of a tribute to your family. Can you share a little bit of your military history of your family? I know you're proud of that.
Yeah, I really am. My father was a veteran of World War I, and then I had 3 brothers that were veterans of World War II. And one brother also got called back in for the Korean War. And of course, I was in the Korean War. My father was in the Army. My 2 of my brothers were in what they call the Army Air Corps, now it's of course the Air Force. My other brother's in the Navy, and I was in the Marine Corps, so we have all branches of service covered.
Now, kind of going back to your growing up, just ask you, are there some values you learned from your family growing up? Were you out on a farm, or did you live in town? And what kinds of experiences molded you and influenced you as you were growing up?
Well, of course, I grew up in town, and my father was a civil engineer, and I was around construction projects quite a bit, and that was influential. But I always relate to the time I spent in FFA in high school, and I still relate to those experiences that I had while in high school.
You attended the state conferences there on the OSU campus.
Yes.
So that was your first look at OSU, was at those conferences?
That was before they started building, right after World War II.
Well, is that what influenced you to come to Oklahoma State? Did you have any other family influence or friends?
No, of course not. I didn't have any family influence because most of my family went to OU.
That's great. What did you know from an early age that you wanted to be an engineer, Jim, because of your dad, or?
Well, yes, you always have that in mind, and and in my family, out of the four of us, 3 of us are civil engineers, and one stray and is an architect, and we all been very successful.
So, what year did you enroll at Oklahoma State now?
1955.
55. Mm-hmm. Graduated in 59 or 60?
59, BS, and a master's degree in 1960.
Where were most of your classes held back in the mid-50s?
Well, most of them were what they called Engineering South and classroom building. There wasn't very many buildings compared to today on the OSU campus at that time.
What was there something about your student experience outside the classroom that you remember? Or there's some activities, organizations you were engaged in?
Well, of course, when I first came to OSU, I had the GI Bill, and Laverne and I were married in 1956, and of course, when you get married, you got to have a little more income. And I applied and got a job working in the Civil Engineering Strength and Materials Laboratory. The pay was $1 an hour. That was minimum wage at that time. But with that and a GI Bill, I got $135 a month. We made it along just fine.
Were you active in some of the engineering societies and groups?
Well, there was a student chapter of American Society of Civil Engineers, which I was active in, and also the College of Engineering had a magazine, which I participated in the publication of it.
Is any other student organizations that, of course, in engineering, I know you got a lot of work to do, being married, but any other leadership organizations or activities you're engaged in?
Well, not really. Laverne's dad was a farmer, so we'd go down every time we had a vacation and spend time at the farm.
Where was that?
There's a downtown called Agra, just south of Perkins, south and east of Perkins.
What did you have some favorite hangouts, places where you stayed on campus and off campus that time?
Well, not really. Most of our activities was with fellow students and their wives, and we'd usually get together periodically and play cards, or didn't have any money to go anyplace.
Where did you and Laverne live?
We lived at 415 West Miller. I still remember, which is a block off of campus. Mm-hmm. And where she worked for the city of Stillwater, and I was close enough to walk to class, and she took the car to work, and I walked to class, and we got along just fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you remember some of the OSU sports, and did you regularly attend the sporting events?
Yes, and I guess that's when I really got hooked on sports. I had a little shed on the back of the carport of the house we had. It was 6 foot wide and 8 foot, and I made me a study room out of it. And I could close enough to hear the band playing at Gallagher Iba, or of course it was Gallagher at that time, Gallagher Hall. And I listened to Ride 'em Cowboys, and then I'd go over there and I usually catch most of the basketball games, at least catch the last half or something, and wrestling matches too. And of course, in the fall we went to a lot of football games and enjoyed those.
Did you have a favorite sport?
Well, I really liked both football and basketball.
Mm-hmm. Well, looking back, Jim, are there some special memories you have of your student days, special recognitions, accomplishments?
Well, not really. I was really glad to get out of school. I was really wanting to go to work, and I thought when I did graduate that I was really proud that I made that accomplishment. And a lot of people don't get that far, and I was very satisfied with my effort.
Jim, kind of repeating maybe a question I asked earlier, but you indicated your dad was a civil engineer but graduated from OU. I mean, was there any pressure to go to OU, or did you feel that OSU was a better school for you, or a better engineering school, or?
There was some pressure, but I think I made the right choice.
Okay. So you talked about earlier about being in the services, but you didn't stay in reserves afterwards, did you?
Well, no, and the reason I didn't, at that time, you were required to have 8 years of service, and that's quite an obligation. And I had been in the Oklahoma National Guard prior to active duty in the Marine Corps. So I had prior service, and really when I was discharged, I had over 6 years of active and inactive service.
Well, you've had an impressive career. You know, built Cobb Engineering into one of the top engineering firms in Oklahoma, and I know you're rightfully proud of that. But could you review some of your professional career and mention some highlights and special accomplishments of your company through the years?
Well, yeah, there's quite a few. I guess the first thing we started on, I got to do a lot of work on a lot of turnpike design and construction, a lot of turnpikes. And I've actually spent time on the Will Rogers Turnpike, the H.E. Bailey Turnpike, Cimarron Turnpike, the Indian Nation Sections A and Section B. So I spent quite a lot of time working on turnpikes.
And that was probably, Jim, when turnpikes were just really being built in Oklahoma,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The front end of that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you get into any of the interstate work as well? Or?
Well, yeah, really, my career, there was some interstate work going on, but a lot of the interstate had been designed by the mid-60s. Of course, the Interstate Highway Act was signed in 1956, but there's still a lot going on. Of course, the Department of Transportation, they're called ODOT, at that time was doing a lot of their work in-house, and they let very little of it out to private consulting engineers, which is not the case today. They let a lot of it out to private engineering firms. And other career jobs, well, one of the big jobs that we have going right now today is the relocation of I-40, the Crosstown Expressway here in Oklahoma City, and it's under construction. Our part was the west end of it, and we were one of 4 people that worked on that job.
Jim, could you explain a little bit about when you're talking about you're not doing basically construction work, you're doing design, engineering.
Right.
Could you explain that a little bit?
Well, yeah, an engineer is a designer. We actually design the highway, or facility, so somebody else can build it, a contractor. Once we get it all on paper, which we call plans, a contractor will take that and actually make a competitive bid. And the successful one, of course, gets to do the construction.
And on occasion, you do have a contractor to maybe supervise.
Supervisor, yes. We have a division with our company now, a construction division, which those people supervise a lot of construction work.
Jim, was Cobb Engineering already in existence and you joined the firm, or did you create it?
No, actually, my late father, had a contract, and it's out in the hall. The first contract that we claim, it was dated 1921, and so I worked with my dad quite a bit, and brothers, and in 1971, that's when, in essence, the Cobb Engineering Company started over, and it was just me and Dad, and I've actually built it up from that time, what it is today.
And that was from what you had, how many at that time, and then how many employees do you have today?
Well, there was 2 of us, and now we have 80 people, a staff of 80 people.
In a given year, Jim, about how many $1 million would you have under contract or working on?
Oh gosh, probably 80 to 120 million, depending on the year.
Million here, million there. Appreciate you
Millionaire,
talking about real
millionaire,
money. Yeah. That's right. What Jim, I just kind of back up and ask about your family. We talked about your father and so on. How about your immediate family? Could you share a little bit of information about them with us? I'm sure you're proud of your grandkids and your kids.
Well, my immediate family, of course, our 4 children, Dan, David, Dina, and Diana, all have graduated from OSU, and that's the one thing I'm really proud of. Of course, a couple of them are on the extended plan, but they did manage to get out, and they're all very successful in business today. And I might mention that our daughter Diana lives in Redmond, Washington, works for eBay, and she has organized an alumni club for the states of Washington and Oregon. And that's the first time they've had a club out there.
That's great. Well, Jim, you've remained closely connected with Oklahoma State University through the years, and you've been very involved with the OSU Alumni Association and the College of Engineering, for example. Uh, can you tell me a little bit about your participation in the in leadership roles in the Alumni Association? For example, maybe starting with the Oklahoma County chapter, and then we'll maybe get into the national board there in a minute.
Uh, when Laverne and I relocated to Oklahoma City in the early '60s, we got involved. The drama department brought some plays down to Oklahoma City, and we attended those. And I got acquainted with a few alumni, and at that time, Dean Stringer, former Regent Dean Stringer, was president of the Oklahoma County Club, and I got acquainted with him. He invited me on the Oklahoma County board, and I guess that's when I got hooked with alumni activities. And then Dean became national president and invited me on the national board of Alumni Association, and of course I became president later on. But that's what I'd have to attribute Dean with getting me hooked on alumni activities.
Well, Jim, what about at that time? Did you help initiate the honors banquets at that time at Merle Rogers and Alumni Association?
Oh yeah, I worked very hard on those, and I enjoyed them. And well, they were very successful.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that was organized and a little bit about it, the honors banquet?
Well, we tried to. First of all, we were inviting seniors to these banquets, but it didn't take us long to figure out the seniors already made up their minds what college they were going to attend, and so we back down to juniors, and we would get what we thought was the top 10%, invite those to a banquet, and they got quite large. A couple of them, we had like 1,500 people. We'd also, well, at first we started going by and picking up the kids and bringing them to the banquet. That got to be a lot of work. So we smartened up a little bit and started inviting parents. And of course, the parents bring kids. And if any kid needed a ride, well, we could furnish it. But those banquets, we had to raise money to pay for all the kids' meal. And that became a lot of work.
How effective was it in recruiting students and informing and involving alumni as well?
Well, one great thing about it did involve alumni, and it kept us together and kept us working together. And it's sad to see that's not what's happening today. But we developed a lot of friendships over the years and got to meet a lot of people.
Were you active in the Higher Education Alumni Council, Oklahoma HEACO?
Well, I'm in it, but I haven't been very active. I do write a letter once in a while, but
that was started about around the same time you were getting active in Oklahoma
Merle
County
Rogers,
chapter.
I remember when Merle Rogers organized it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Merle Rogers, Merle was a long time. I guess 25 years executive director of the Alumni Association. What do you remember about Merle? Have you got some good Merle Rogers stories for us?
Well, whenever you saw Merle, he had a big old smile on his face, and it was just a joy to be around him. He's another guy that continued to hook in me, I guess, and I really enjoyed working with Merle. He was such a joy to be around. And you could always depend on him. What he said he was going to do, he'd do. And we had a lot of success with these honors banquets.
He was a tireless worker, wasn't he?
Yeah, he just tireless. One of the stories that they told about him, he'd be driving down the road and maybe run out of gas, and he knew how to rock the car to make it go a few more miles. I don't know if you've ever heard that one.
I haven't heard. I've heard a lot of Merle Rogers stories. I hadn't heard that one, Jim. That sounds like Merle. What years did you serve on the National Alumni Association National Board, and what year were you president?
I was president in 81, 82. let's see, the national board, as I recall, was 67, 68 when Dean Stringer was national president.
Do you remember what some of the goals were, programs of the association during your leadership years?
Well, yeah, we one of them was to continue with the alumni bank and try to build up our membership. I think that was probably the biggest goal, was to try to build up the membership. Of course, as you mentioned, Merle organized the Higher Education Alumni Council, and he spent a lot of time on that too. And one of the main goals that I recall was that we wanted to get 4-lane highways to Stillwater from Tulsa to Oklahoma City. And that took some work and several years, but we finally got 4-lane highways from Stillwater. Merle always said, we're not going to fill that football stadium until we get 4-lane highways to Stillwater. But it is a success now. And
I guess homecoming was still a big project, the Alumni Association in.
Yes,
and I guess class reunions were early on were fairly strong.
Yeah. By the way, I get my class reunions coming up for 50 years this year. So
okay.
Looking forward to that.
That's great. What were there major issues during your time? You remember, were there some successes? Were there some frustrations that you had as president? And some things you wanted to get done, wasn't able to get accomplished?
Well, there was a little bit of controversy with, I think there was a few students tried to take over the campus. And I recall Dr. Cobb held his ground. And I really appreciate that, because, you know, I guess there's sometimes students always want to kind of take over something, and he didn't let them get by with it.
You had Jim. You had several years to work with the Alumni Association at the local level, at the chapters, the national level, and got a good feel for what it's all about. How important, in your mind, how important is a self-governed, strong alumni association to the university?
Well, I think it's very strong. And of course, Jerry, you proved that in your tenure with the president of alumni. That was your title, wasn't it, president?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think it's very important. A strong alumni association builds a strong university. Mm-hmm. And I remember Dr. Campbell always saying that, you know, it makes your degree worth more. And that's what we need.
What do you feel is the appropriate role, programs and activities of the Alumni Association? What are the kinds of things it does that are most effective? And how does it engage alumni on behalf of the university?
Well, I think we do that very well. And of course, with the new building, it's more attractive. I'm not sure how many people come before games, and
several hundred.
And people have a place to come.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you got kids or grandkids, and that's a good place to bring them.
And I guess through the years, some of the things that you're describing is HEACO, Higher Education Council, and now Cowboys for Education helps appropriations from the state. It honors banks are about engaging alumni and recruiting students, and some of those kinds of activities are important to the university.
Yeah. I guess I would like to see the Alumni Association get more involved in recruiting students. I think that's something that we could benefit the university from.
Very strong component of Alumni Association programs when you were president, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Well, also maybe sort of turning the president just a little bit, Jim, but you've also been very closely involved and supportive of OSU, Cowboy sports. In fact, you helped organize the first OSU Posse Club. Can you tell me about how and why the Oklahoma City Posse Club was formed?
Well, if you recall, the football season 1963 wasn't too good for Oklahoma. Was Oklahoma A&M? No, it was Oklahoma State. Yeah. We were 8-1. Didn't play the 10th game. I don't recall that. That was the year President Kennedy was assassinated. And out of respect to the week of mourning, they canceled the K-State OSU game, which was the last game of the season. Anyway, the next year wasn't a whole lot better. And I came to Alumni Oklahoma County meeting one meeting. We met, by the way, on Monday mornings during the school year at the YMCA for breakfast. And that's where we planned activities for Oklahoma County Club. And one of those meetings, I just came in, threw out, I said, I want to organize a football club. You know, I had in mind a quarterback club or something like that.
Now, this, when you say club, you know, this was the Alumni Association chapter met the officers met on Monday mornings or
Monday
twice.
Morning,
Okay.
Yeah. And there wasn't that much interest in it in the Alumni Club. And afterwards, I started getting phone calls at my office, and I got 4 or 5 of them. And I said, well, let's just call a meeting. And that's what we did. And we called a meeting. And I got the date right here, November 11th, 1964. And there was, about 25 of us showed up. And we decided to go ahead with it. But before we go any further, we felt like that we needed to have the blessing of the athletic department. So 6 of us traveled to Stillwater. I got the date here, November 19th, and met with Mr. Iba. Oh, I'll always remember that opportunity to sit down with him 5 minutes or so. And boy, eyes lit up, and he liked the idea. And I'll always remember, too, as we were leaving the room, he put his hand on my shoulder, and he says, now, you young boys can get something like this started. And that was enough to enthuse us to continue. And then we came back and we met again. I got the November 24th to form committees. And this way we got a lot of people involved. The more committees you have, the more people you can get involved. And so you had 2, 4, 6, 8 committees. Names, name of the organization, annual dues, when we should meet, how we should classify membership and publicities, what the officers and directors should be, or rules and regulation, how we make the disbursements, and then we had a catch-all committee of basic specifics.
Jim, had you coined the name posse yet, and who came up with that phrase? Do you remember?
Well, yes. All right, I signed chairman and members to all these 8 committees, and then we agreed to get back together on December 15th, 1964, to form the bylaws, election of officers, and so on. And on the meeting December 15th, 1964, I asked a report of the committees. Now, I won't go into all of them, but the first report I asked for was the name of the organization. And let's see, the committee members were, Al Fiegel, Ted Bonham, Jim Hasenbach, Dr. Jim Devine, and a guy, Wilson, a guy named Wilson. And Al Fiegel was chairman of the committee, and he handed me this letter. Can I read part of it?
Sure. And what was his name again? Al what?
Al Fiegel.
Fiegel?
Yeah, Al left shortly after this and went to Santa Fe, New Mexico. But it's my understanding he came back and taught at OSU. He has since passed on. But in the second paragraph, he says, our first consideration was that the general character of the name, which we concluded could not be Ivy League or sophisticated or anything else not in keeping with the tradition of our school. Neither did we feel the connotation of football was necessary to the name, even though the club is concerned only with the encouragement of an improved football program at OSU. After consideration of several possibilities, all of which were bad, we decided to submit to you the suggested name of Oklahoma State Posse. Since posse means a gang of pursuing cowboys, we felt this label was a particularly appropriate name for the club. However, since we're all interested in the best name possible, our committee would like to be the first to encourage any further suggestion from the floor. If the name posse should be acceptable, we suggest that the president of this group be known as the marshal, the secretary of treasury deputy marshal, the board of directors as sheriffs, and the club members as deputies. The insignia we proposed for the club incorporates the name Oklahoma State Posse with Pistol Pete's head on a star-shaped badge. That's how it started.
That's the start. That's great. So you mentioned some of the names again. Can you, Jim Hassenbeck, yourself?
No, I wasn't on. I was chairman of the committee, and the committee came up with the name.
Right, but I mean, but the early leadership of your board.
Oh, yeah.
Names some people were.
Yeah.
Okay. What was as you formed that? Did you have, as you said, you had encouragement from Mr. Ives? So did you have continued support from the athletic department, from the coaches for your organization?
Well, of course, Coach Cutchin wasn't. He didn't. We did meet with him on occasions, but and no, I think they just kind of left it to us on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And,
what was your relationship with the OSU athletics was pretty loose. I mean, they knew you were there, but there wasn't much interaction.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Who did you work with to get speakers? At that time, did you have speakers, come to your programs?
Yes, and Myron Roderick was the first one that really, and we gave the first money to this race.
Well, Jim, along those lines, what were some of your early activities, things that the club did?
Well, most of the activities was football trips, and we always got a bus or two to go to Arkansas because that was always the first game we started, and we also got some other bus trips.
Mm-hmm. Then, how often did you meet?
Well, we met very often during football season, maybe weekly. But during the summer, probably didn't meet at all.
And maybe monthly the rest of the year.
Might have had a picnic or two during the summer.
So what would be the typical format of one of your programs during the fall, during the football season?
Well, we were interested in making or having some kind of support for the football team. Primarily like bringing them down to Oklahoma City for a banquet, and then if they ever got a chance to go to the bowl game, we wanted to honor them some way, very similar with a banquet if they were successful in getting the bowl bid.
Did coaches come down to speak? Myron Roderick come down and some of the
and assistant coaches.
Mm-hmm. At that time did they have the films that they would bring at that era at that time?
Well, the Coach Cutchin, I don't think he wanted us to have those films. And I can understand that. He was afraid to get in the wrong hands. Mm-hmm. And
you told me earlier about the dues. What were the dues to be a member of it?
We started off with dues of $25. $25.
Did you have different levels of giving, or was it just the one
$25?
$25?
That was a membership. And then, of course, you could give more. Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't have different levels of membership giving.
Well, about that time, some other posse clubs started forming around the state. I mean, I'm recalling Tulsa, Enid, Woodward, Lawton, Kingfisher,
I think Guthrie,
Fort Smith. Was that kind of a did they pattern themselves after what you'd done here in Oklahoma City? Did you guys help them with any advice or support?
Yeah, some of our people helped them get those started. I wasn't personally involved in those.
What did you, how did the Oklahoma City Posse Club evolve from the time you were with it in the early 60s through the 70s? Did it change some of the organization? Was it stay about the same over that 20-year period?
I think it struggled during that time. And of course, when you came aboard, was that 1970?
84.
Oh,
78, excuse me, 78.
78.
1978.
And I think that's when you really got it took off. You ought to be attributed to that.
Well, speaking of that, Jim, did you feel let's see, what I'm trying to ask is, do you feel that the appropriate roles of alumni and fans in helping advance excellence in athletics, what are the appropriate roles? How did you encourage alumni to be engaged and fans of the program? What kinds of things did you do to help promote and support OSU athletics?
Well, of course, all athletics are poor, especially OSU. And at that time, we were last in the Big Eight, I guess. And of course, we stayed down pretty close to the bottom of the Big 12 too. And our purpose, we were wanting some way to funnel money to the athletic department, and that's one thing I'm proud of. The money did go to the athletic department, which it could have gone some other places, but it all went to the athletic department.
Did you encourage members to give directly to the athletics or to the foundation, or did y'all send money through the Posse Club to the athletics?
The money went to the Posse Club, and we were just a funneling agent to the foundation. Okay. And all money distributed went to the OSU Foundation for athletics.
Well, how effective do you feel the Oklahoma City Posse Club was in advancing OSU athletics?
Well, I don't know if they did a lot of advancement, but at least they got it started. And of course, that's what I think that we all be proud that we made some kind of contribution. We did get it started.
You alluded to kind of the change there in the mid '80s. Do you feel that the integration of the Posse clubs into the one Oklahoma State Posse has been a good long-term strategy for engaging and coordinating participation of athletic boosters with the athletic program?
Oh, yeah. I think it's tremendous. I don't know what the Posse giving today is, but it's certainly makes a significant difference in the athletics.
Looking back on those times in the 60s and 70s, do you have some special memories? Are there some highlights for you as you think about some of the activities, things you're engaged in?
Well, I think most fun we had was on bus trips to out-of-town games. And I don't know if anybody's organized them now or not.
Did you participate in the railroad trip, the train trip that took down to Houston? Because I guess that was actually the Moral Alumni Association maybe, but did you participate in that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we manned the caboose, not the caboose, freight car, and that was where they had the beer and the pop and the goodies. And we made sandwiches for it too.
Well, Jim,
there was 2 trips. One year went to Houston, next year went to Austin, Texas.
And train trips. What kind of again change the subject just a little bit? We might talk a little bit about your involvement with College of Education. I know that's been very important to you over the years. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the things you've done with the college?
College of Engineering?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've always been active and I try to participate with students in the American Society of Engineers. I started giving some funds to that organization, and I started giving what I thought was a scholarship. Laverna and I now, we have established a endowed scholarship with the OSU Foundation, which gives 1 or 2 scholarships to civil engineering students. And we also have a endowed scholarship at the Oklahoma City Community Foundation, which I think we gave out 5 out of that fund last year. And then a company, Cobb Engineering Company, gives 2 annual scholarships in cash. And then Laverna, my wife Laverna, she's established a scholarship in the name of her father at the OSU Foundation. So I think in all, we were kind of responsible for 10 scholarships last year.
Wow.
This year won't be quite as good, I'm afraid.
Well, you served over the years on some of the advisory boards, I believe, have you
Yes. I've been on the School of Civil Engineering has Board of Visitors. I'm now serving my third 4-year term on that this time. We meet once a year, usually in the fall. We meet with students, we meet with faculty, and we meet with the dean. And we tell them our thoughts, and some of them they take, some of them they don't. But I think it's a good program, and I believe it helps all.
You're also, I think, for several years, Jim, you've been an associate of the College of Engineering and been involved with that advisory group with the dean.
Yeah, that's the deans. It calls them associates, and there are several of us that meet once a year also, and we'll be coming up. Now we meet twice a year, fall and spring. Coming up here pretty quick, and I've really enjoyed that. I get to meet engineers all over the country that have gone to OSU, and I'll tell you what, we have got a bunch of sharp engineers scattered around this country.
Does Cobb Engineering hire very many OSU graduates?
Yes, we hired. Oh, I'm not sure how many we got. We got 6 or 8 right now, engineers, and we got some from other universities too.
Jim, how, in your mind, how's the college changed since you were a student to now? You said you had talking about all these sharp kids out there. How's the curriculum, how's the program changed since you were a student?
Well, I always like to think that I had to work a little harder. These kids today, I think it's I'm not going to say easier, but that doesn't seem like they had to work as hard as we did. Of course, they have a much better background than we have in high school, and you know when I was a student, you need 148 hours to graduate in civil engineering. With 8 hours could be military. So, but you need 140. Well, now they've reduced that to I think 126 now. So they've cut out a lot of courses, and they're still looking to reduce it more. It's very difficult when some schools, not schools, some other business schools offer a degree for 120 hours, and you're trying to attract an engineer over here to take more hours, and they don't want to take all those hours. They want to get a degree and get out and go to work.
That was really, I've heard it said it was originally almost like having a master's degree when you had your bachelor's in engineering. Is that true?
Yeah. See, I could have got a PhD with almost a PhD with the hours I had for both my BS and master's.
How many hours was your master's program, Jim?
30.
30 on top of your 148.
So that's 178. Pretty close, isn't it?
It is. Jim, how's we talking about the college, sort of changing. You had since the early mid 50s. So over 50 years now. You've been associated with Oklahoma State University. In your mind, how has the university changed? What major changes and shifts and evolution have you seen?
Well, of course, it's gotten a lot bigger and a lot more buildings. I don't know. I don't see a whole lot of change in the structure. You still have kind of the same attitude with the professors. I can't see that much really change. These kids coming out of school today, they're sharp. They are sharp.
Are you pleased with the direction the university's going?
Oh yeah, yeah. And with the influx of, hopefully we get an influx of funds from Mr. Boone Pickens. I believe it's going to be greater growth.
For that, talking about for the campaign that be coming down the road. What do you what do you think about the current renovation and planned renovation and new construction on the campus? Is that pretty phenomenal in your mind?
Yes, very much.
I think it was $700-800 million over the next 10-15 years.
Yeah, and that's also triggered a lot of growth for City of Stillwater. Hope they can keep up with utilities.
Yeah. What, Jim? Looking back on your, again, the many years you had at Oklahoma State University, your lifelong relationships and service to your alma mater, are there some special highlights, some special memories that you have as a student, as an alum? There's some that stand out in your mind.
Well, of course, I was honored. Got honored as a member of the Hall of Fame of College of Engineering, and just a year ago honored with being inducted in the Alumni Hall of Fame.
Oklahoma State University Alumni Hall of Fame.
Those are real special, and they're really special to my kids. When I received my Engineering Hall of Fame, my kids were in school at that time, so they got to come see Daddy get that at the campus.
Great. Jim, I want to go back and ask another quick question too about your experience with the posse. What can you, from the first time you talked about that first meeting that you had in 1964, along there in November, December, got the name of it going? Could we talk about maybe that sort of that first year or two of the organization a little bit and how it grew? I mean, for a while you said when you first met you had like 25 people and just a handful of people.
Yeah.
How many membership did you grow it to in the next 2 or 3 years?
Well, I think the first year might have had 130 or 40 members, and it took some time to get the word out, and when people hear something new, they don't necessarily jump on the bandwagon immediately. So it took some time to get the word out and tell them what we're trying to do.
So did you have membership campaigns in, like one of your committees was your membership committee? And what were some of the things that you did? Did you mail outs, word of mouth, phone calls?
Both, all. We had mailings. We also had, most of it was word of mouth.
What was at the time, what was the relationship? I guess that would have been Merle Rogers was alumni director. Did the relationship between the Posse Club and the Oklahoma County chapter, was that pretty positive? That worked pretty smoothly?
Well, at first I thought maybe the organization would be part of the Alumni Association, but it didn't end up that way. And Merle Rogers, I'll never will forget, I got a nice note from Merle saying it was a good idea and he was all for it and supportive of it, and that was getting that from him was a big honor.
It was. So you intended or felt that when you first started that it might be a part of the alumni association, but as opposed to being separate. Yeah. What, Jim, did it grow after that to the level you thought about it? We're talking about going from 25 members to around 150 members. Did it then get larger than that, or did it stay about that level?
Well, I really, after 3 or 4 years, I had 3 kids, and and we're all, they're 3 years apart, and I didn't have near the time to participate in it, and I didn't drop out, but certainly wasn't as active as I was. And,
well, and you're also, as we talked about earlier, you were very involved with the chapter and then with the national
yes.
board with the Alumni Association.
Yes.
Taking a lot of hours, wasn't
yeah.
it? Yeah. Well, Jim, let me go back and ask you again to discuss, if I understood correctly, about how you handle, your finances. The membership, they paid $25 to the Posse Club, and some of them give more. You'd have special kind of pass the hat and special events you wanted to do. Did you then, when you had extra money left from your activities, did you then send that money again? You said to the foundation, to athletics. Is that how you handle the money?
No. What we did, the $25, the club kept $5 of the 25, and the $20 went to the OSU Foundation.
Oh, okay.
So we did. Anytime we had an activity, that was self-sustained. It had to.
It's charged at the door. Then.
Yeah, we didn't take the money out of the.
Okay.
Only the $5 for operating expenses.
Oh, I see. Okay. So $20 in was designated to go to.
Yes.
They'd just write a check to the foundation. Is that where it'd go to?
Yeah. And I think the first one was sent up there was $300 and something.
Every bit helps, right?
Yeah.
You talked about some trips. You took bus trips, particularly. You had coaches or speakers. Are there some other things that the chapter did that you thought were creative or innovative in that early period?
Well, what we had liked to have had a weekly meeting and got some people from the athletic department to come down and talk to us to get us enthused. That would have been a big help. However, we never could seem to get that across. They did participate some, but not to the extent that we wanted them to.
You've got to feel, Jim, a sense of pride. I mean, when you think about the posse is such a big deal now with the university, and it's evolved. And as we talk about it evolved from separate chapters to one, Oklahoma State Posse, through the OSU Athletics and the foundation. But just to hear the name Posse, you guys created it. You were the first. Did you feel pretty special about that?
Well, yeah, especially at the opening of the football game, they opened the gate and let the Cowboys out, or let the cows out, I guess.
That's great. What did you guys ever have Pistol Pete down to your meetings? The mascot, Pistol Pete.
No, never did. He wasn't a traveling Pistol Pete like he is now.
Okay.
See, he started in 1958. I was at the football game when they introduced him.
Oh, really? First one?
I think it was 1950.
58, I believe you're right. 58. I think it was the first one.
What was the name changed in 57? Might have been the fall of 57.
Jim, let me go back and ask you again, see if I understood correctly. The committee that come up with the name Posse was chaired by Flegel. Is that
Al Flegel?
Al Flegel. Okay, Al Flegel. And again, who were some of the names that was on that committee? Do you remember who some of the other committee members were?
Jim Hasenbach, Ted Bonham, Dr. Jim Devine, and another guy named Wilson.
Do you know which one of those guys actually come up with the idea of Posse?
I'm sure it was Al Flegel, because at that time he worked for Ackerman Associates, which was an advertising agency. Really, he was a sharp guy.
Say he's deceased now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Jim, looking back on your lifelong relationship, with Oklahoma State and your service to your alma mater, again, I'm going to kind of give you one more chance. What are there some highlight moments for you, times that stand out in the history of OSU that are special to you?
Well, of course, personally, family, I'm glad that all 4 of my kids graduated from there. When we did the new stadium and started the building, you know, I went on the athletic council, and from 1984 to 88.
Mhm.
Well, you remember that. And I was wanting to get a arena started. And Myron Roderick was the athletic director. He told me, he said, if we had a new arena, we couldn't afford to take care of it. That's how poor the athletic department was at that time.
Mhm.
And but it's been rescued now, so hopefully we can continue to make improvement.
Jim, what advice would you give nowadays to students, to alumni, and OSU administration to keep making OSU better?
Well, I think they're on the right track, and I look forward to seeing what President Hargis would continue with a program that'll have exceptional growth, and I think he will do it. And I just want to make it a better place for somebody else to enjoy as much as I did, and if I got any grandkids that go there, well, I want them to enjoy it too.
Well, Jim, maybe two final questions. One is, do you still feel that it's important going forward in the future to maintain a strong alumni association?
Oh yeah, yeah. And you still have a lot of meetings. I need to come to some of those meetings.
Okay. Well, maybe final question, got to wrap up, Jim. I mean, you guys, we talked about all your different interactions with the university. How do you hope people will remember Jim Cobb? How do you want them to remember you?
Oh, I don't know. I did my share, and I like for them to follow.
That's pretty humble. You
Yeah.
didn't say much for a guy who's done a lot you have. I mean,
Yeah.
you hope they put in the kind of passion that you put into it.
Well, you know, I'm just like anybody else. I did it because I wanted to,
Mhm.
and I have no regrets.
Great. Jim, is there anything we haven't mentioned that you'd like to talk about Oklahoma State that we kind of cover?
Well,
Okay, hang on a minute. Okay, we're continuing an interview with Jim Cobb on March 2, 2009. Jim, you had some additional information you want to share with us about the posse clubs, I think?
Yes, I just, while we're reloading here, I got some information on membership, and by the end of the first year, we had 42 members. By the end of 1965, we had 101 members. By the end of 1966, 147, and by the end of 1967, it had 200. And now we did have classes of membership. This is 1967 year. Still, $25 was the minimum annual gift. If you did give $100, you got a little bit of upgrade, such as stadium parking privileges, a golf outing, and priority seating for 4-season tickets. And also
For how much was that, Jim? For $100? $100.
And then we had $1,000, and you really got a lot of goodies for that. But this is a brochure that we had in 1967, trying to encourage membership. That year also we did receive a resolution from the Alumni Association, and it's signed by Merle Rogers and Charles Thompson, commending us for organizing the posse.
Great. So then, Jim, the money you're getting when you're doing the $100, $500, $1,000 levels was then money that you were sending back to athletics. Then, is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We only kept like I said, the $5.
Well, how did you work with the athletic department then to provide those benefits? You were working with them for donor seating, the right to purchase tickets in certain areas.
Yes.
Which is I guess then a little bit different when we talked about the restructuring of the posse club in the mid '80s. Then that all then become directed out of the athletic gifts office. Then didn't it?
Of course, there wasn't an athletic gift didn't have an Avalon Gift office
Sure,
at that time.
absolutely. Okay. Is there anything else about the club there, Jim, you want to add? Did we cover what you had in mind?
No.
Okay.
You mentioned about what I hope OSU would be like, and
Yes.
I hope it'd be still an outstanding university, and still attracts good kids. I think we got a good thing going, and it's been that way for many, many years, and I know in my heart that it'll continue for many, many more years.
That's great. Jim, anything else?
Well, I don't know what it would be.
Nope. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Take the
Appreciate
opportunity.
the opportunity to tell my story.
Okay.